Hey everyone, it's Sammy from Push Square, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the Nintendo Switch actually, which was announced today. Now, this is what Nintendo has been teasing for a long time. A lot of you will have probably heard the codename NX and are probably already familiar with what the Switch is, but if you haven't heard yet, it's basically their new console and handheld at the same time. So it's basically a dock, which you put a kind of tablet in, and then you can take that tablet out with you and play all of the same games out and about with you, like it's a handheld console as well. But I wanted to talk about this. Obviously, we're a PlayStation channel, so I wanted to talk about it kind of in relation to how this is going to impact, say, the PS4, and I think more potently the Vita. Now, I think what Nintendo's doing here is they're not going after the PS4 market at all. They're not trying to challenge with the Xbox One and the PS4. You know, yes, this is a console, and of course, you know, any kind of entertainment medium competes directly with PlayStation products, but they're going for a kind of different market. They're trying to find a kind of niche between mobile and smartphone and, you know, the big boy consoles like the PS4 and the Xbox One. And I think that's super smart from Nintendo's perspective to try and carve out a different portion of the market, which they obviously did so successfully with the Wii previously. So I think they've made the right call there. But what I wanted to talk about specifically is how Sony has kind of been going after this idea of console gaming on the go since the PlayStation Portable, really. The PlayStation Portable was sold on the premise of you can take big games like Ridge Racer or whatever, and you can take them on the go with you. And the Vita kind of built on that. You know, don't forget, the marketing for when the Vita launched was all about taking big console games on the go. It had launch lineup which featured Uncharted. You know, the second wave of games for it included Killzone Mercenary and Assassin's Creed. These were big console-esque releases. So it's interesting that Nintendo has now gone in that direction to some degree. Now, if you look at what they did eventually with the Vita, the big titles that they were building for the Vita didn't really work. They didn't sell enough to justify their big bloated development budgets. So with the Vita, they then started to work on stuff like remote play, which was kind of the same premise. It's you take your big console games on the go with you, and obviously you needed an internet connection, and there were a lot of control issues that came up as a part of remote play, but it was the same idea. And I think Nintendo Switch is kind of the final form of that premise, that idea of taking console games on the go. They want you to take your Zelda, they want you to take your Skyrim or whatever, and you can play it either at home or you can play it on the go. And I think perhaps the big question that lingers over the Nintendo Switch now is that something that people want to do? Now, I'm speaking personally from my perspective, but what the Vita actually taught me is, and I love the Vita, I really do enjoy playing the Vita when I do, but the problem was that I never played it enough. Those console experiences on the Vita, they didn't really appeal to me. I don't want to play Skyrim on the go. I just don't. I don't even want to play Zelda on the go, I don't think. And I wonder how many people do want to do that. Now, obviously, there are going to be smaller experiences, smaller games, more tailored experiences for the Nintendo Switch as well. And I think what the Vita was really good at, and where the Vita definitely excelled, was, for example, a game like Rogue Legacy, which was a perfect handheld game, but you could also, because of cross-buy and cross-play and cross-save, you could also play it on the handheld. So you were taking that kind of bite-sized experience from the console onto the handheld and back again. And I think that's where Nintendo Switch is probably going to excel the best. But definitely there's one area where Nintendo Switch is going to have no issues, and that's going to be in Japan. This is a platform that is tailor-made for Japan, and if there are question marks over whether there'll be a market for it in the West, there should be no question marks that there'll be a market for it in Japan. I wouldn't be surprised if it overtook the PS4's install base in 2017 alone, like just in Japan, not globally, but in Japan, because Japan obviously loves handhelds, and you can imagine a kind of Monster Hunter game. You know, you've got that commute aspect to it. You can play it portably, you can play it socially on trains and around like lunch tables and stuff like that, but then you can also dock it back at home. And I think the problem that Sony has now is that the Vita is irrelevant now. The Vita, this is the final nail in the Vita's coffin without any question. But Nintendo has also kind of finished what Sony was trying to do in the handheld space with this platform, which is to bring you console gaming on the go. And there's now doesn't seem like there's any room in this market for Sony anymore. So I think that with today's announcement, Nintendo has not only killed the Vita, but they've also kind of stopped Sony from having any future presence in the handheld space. Now we'll have to wait and see. Maybe they've got something up their sleeve, but I really think Sony's out of the handheld market now. I think with the fact that Sony's now moved its headquarters to America, they're looking solely at the Western market. And while they will continue to maintain a presence with the PS4 and stuff in Japan, I think they're out of the handheld business now, which is quite a sad day really when you really stop and think about it, because what Nintendo has done here is what Sony has been trying to do since the PSP released over a decade ago, and they just didn't quite follow through with it. They haven't finished the job off, and Nintendo's finished it off for them, which is fair play to them. But yeah, I just wanted to get some reaction up to the Switch announcement, really. I'd be foolish not to say something about it, and hopefully I've approached it from a manner that's befitting of a PlayStation channel. But if you want to know more about Nintendo Switch, do check out nintendolife.com. I'll link them up in the description below. We're affiliated with nintendolife.com and they do great work, so do check that out. And let me know what you think this means for the Vita. Do you think that Sony's going to come back with a kind of new portable of its own, or do you think it's game over now? And as a PS4 owner and someone that plays console games, has the Nintendo Switch enticed you, or are you not really interested in that handheld aspect? Like I was saying earlier, you know, I don't want to play Skyrim on a handheld, I just don't. But that's my personal opinion. I certainly understand what Nintendo's trying to do here, and I think they've done a great job with this reveal. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully I haven't rambled too much, and stay tuned to the channel for lots more actual PlayStation news. We'll try not to go off and talk about Nintendo and Xbox too much. Thank you so much for watching.